date right now is October 29th, 2018. It's been the end of a really, really awful week in terms of like all the news that's been happening. I mean, just yesterday, we all learned about the shooting at Squirrel Hill, and a lot of people involved in AP Marvel. We are former students of Carnegie Mellon, so we are all like Izzy is a current student in Carnegie Mellon. Izzy and Anthony are not in this episode right now. They've been going through a rough time, so their Twitter handles, I urge you to send them your best wishes, but that was just like the cap of what's been a really long week. Capitalized with the bomb threats and the response to that, and then I think it was Monday where there was this New York Times piece about how the Trump administration is basically, I guess, through the Department of Health and Human Services or whatever, are trying to basically redefine what like the legal terminology of gender, and feel free to correct me if I get any details wrong, but basically trying to redefine it as like the gender that they're assigned at birth, I think is what they're trying to.
Based on the genitals that you're born
exactly,
with and your original birth certificate.
Yeah.
There will be DNA testing involved if they get their way.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, totally, no. Yeah. I appreciate that actually. So it's been a very, I guess, demoralizing week, and when you go on social media with all the the people sitting at this table we are part of and follow a lot of people from marginalized communities, so seeing people trying to kind of band together and basically promote visibility, and that's kind of what I want to talk about in this episode of AP Marvel. This is going to be like a lighthearted, where are the MCU gays episode, but I think with the current context, I think it's really important to talk about just the concept of visibility, why it matters in media, especially with Marvel being as popular as it is. So, I am your usual host, Chris Compendio. I have two guests with me, both CMU alum. I'm very happy to have both of them. Nat, I've been trying to get you on the show for a while to talk about the subject.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's up? What do you do in life? Oh, I mean, also Laura's I think she's gonna pick up on that since you do the same thing. But yeah, tell us about yourself a little.
Yeah, I'm Nat. You can find me online at Nat Rose with a Z. Pretty much everywhere that has an at on it. I officially work in publishing. I do the same thing as Laura, so I'll let Laura talk about that instead of me, because I don't wanna. But,
yeah.
I graduated with an art degree mostly, so I am an aspiring, possibly comic artist. I am also an aspiring, possible game designer, if in terms of like tabletop kind of stuff. I like making stories. I like telling stories.
Yeah. And Laura Berry's here. We've mentioned you a couple times, I think.
Hi.
We had one Betsy Ladezets on the show.
Oh yeah, former guest star.
Yes,
yeah,
for the science episode, which was a banger. And I think we mentioned that when we were trying to figure out what the hell this show is going to be called, I think AP Marvel came from your suggestion, I want to say.
Yes, and today I will rename the show. AP Marvel.
Oh, god damn it, yeah.
Say it right into the microphone.
It's good.
Good shit.
Yeah, so I'm Laura. You can find me at Lauberry on Twitter. There's nothing much interesting there. Yep, I do publishing stuff during the day and journalism stuff at night mostly. Yeah.
And, of course, you can always find me at Compenderizer. Follow me for all the good stuff. I don't think Nat follows me on Twitter yet, now that I think about it. No, you don't.
I'm really bad at following people. Do you know how many followers I have? It's bad. It's hard for me to follow people back if they don't tell me they've followed me.
Yeah. I
don't notice.
It's like such a strange mind game of like the ratio and all
my
that.
My DM that I play games with weekly followed me on Twitter about 4 months ago and never told me, and I didn't notice until he liked one of my tweets that I was live tweeting our game during our Dungeons and Dragons game, and I was like, Robert, when did you follow me on Twitter? And he's like, in June. And I'm just sitting here like, you gotta fucking tell me this shit.
Yeah. I noticed. Are we allowed to
swear? I'm sorry.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Swear like a
fuck yeah.
sailor as much as you want.
Titty sprinkles.
Yeah, there we go. I noticed that I think a few months ago, I noticed that my dad was following me on Twitter.
Oh, no.
One of my middle school classmates' fathers followed me on Twitter, and I had to soft block him because that was weird.
Yeah, no, that's the way to do it.
I'm like, I'm so sorry, man. All I post about is Final Fantasy lately. Your son is like promoting his indie films that he's making in South Hollywood, and I'm over here talking about how gay I am for Prompto.
Yeah, I definitely relate because Brie Larson follows me on Twitter.
What? What?
That's not true. I'm just really excited about Captain Marvel.
Oh my god. Okay.
Same.
Oh man. Okay, that shook me for a split second, and then it all just got to anyway.
God, stay frosty.
Yeah. I think we have a third guest here.
I stuck googly eyes on my chapstick.
Yeah.
That's the third guest. They won't be speaking.
Yeah. Also, somewhere in the background, Bryn Scherenberg is watching us, and I invited her to crash the podcast if she ever has an opinion on stuff. But yeah. Yep. It's that kind of episode.
Yeah. We're a little bit punchy, I think.
Yeah. I think she said that if we somehow mention Teen Titans, that's going to be because we were watching Teen Titans earlier.
Good. The cartoon.
The cartoon.
Good.
But I was telling her about the live action one because I had to.
Opinions on sound design.
Yeah, if you want to wear these headphones instead of me and still speak louder or something. But yeah, I think it's been enough of this banter. But anyway, gay people.
Yes. Yes, you rang.
I think it's fair to say that, and I'm trying very hard to word this carefully because I don't want to alienate people. Because there's a large audience who follows, comics, movies, and TV shows, who are not totally emotionally invested in the idea of representation and visibility. And I was telling the two of you before we started recording that I kind of see it as two different groups. One who's in kind of in bad faith, you see a lot of homophobic and transphobic, just the whole Comicsgate bullshit that I've been loosely following, but
I try not to look at.
Yeah, no, it's disgusting. And then of course there's the other category I would characterize as they're asking the same question but in a different tone where they're actually curious. They actually want to learn.
Just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the difference between not knowing and not caring, kind of.
Yeah, i.e., probably parents are definitely that. And did you want to say something about your mother? I think, or how do you how you wanted to?
Yeah, just in terms of moment that I figured out how to explain why representation matters is on my mom's side of the family I'm Jewish, and my mother looks very Jewish. She's got the really big curly dark hair, and she got it when I was trying to tell her why LGBTQ representation matters in media. She got what I was trying to talk about when she looked back on her own childhood and realized that Princess Leia was the first time she'd ever seen a brunette princess with curly hair, and that was something that was very important to her as a kid. Growing up, and that's when she sort of got what I was talking about of being able to see yourself in media for the first time.
Right. Yeah.
And my mother comes from a very Jewish part of Philadelphia. She hadn't met an Asian person till she came to college, kind of sheltered Jewish lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah. Very, very insular community kind of a thing. So she grew up surrounded by cultural Judaism. Not necessarily religious, but ethnic Judaism, and so she's seeing all these people in her life who she knows they're out there, and then not seeing that in the media and being told that your body type's wrong, your hair's wrong, your nose is wrong, and she actually has talked a little bit about regretting her nose job, but and she had feeling later in life she was rejecting her culture to look more like the standard Americanized beauty. But yeah, that was a moment where she, a cisgender, straight, white-passing woman, understood what representation meant.
Okay. Yeah, because there are a lot of bad faith actors out there who are oh, you're only putting these characters into push your agenda, or
I'm pushing my gender. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
and people who are trying to look at it at like a race blind way or like colorblind way and being like, oh, I don't care what race they are as long as like the story's good or something like that, which like I guess is somewhat good intention, but like
the intentions are good, but everybody's still white.
Yeah, it's kind of missing the whole point.
People always ask stuff like, oh, why do they have to be gay? Why do they have to be black? Why do they have to be XYZ? Nobody ever asks, why do they have to be straight? Why do they have to be white?
Exactly,
that's exactly as valid a question. It's like, why does Captain America have to be a white guy? In the comics, he has been a non-white guy a couple of times.
Yeah.
Or once, at least. Sam Wilson's been Cap in the comics.
Yeah. But then you get, like, the attempt to be clever and rebut that with, what if, if they make Black Panther white or something like that?
There's a different context
Yes, yeah.
The context is not America being a non-monoculture. The context is that the concept of Black Panther was inherently attached to blackness.
Yeah, specifically like Africa.
Yeah, Africa and African blackness and African culture.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so big that it's very statistically unlikely. If the true concern is, I want race blindness, gender blindness, all of this kind of thing, that sort of I don't know. I think that argument falls apart a little in such a large
like the Marvel
creative universe
is Marvel multiverse, really, if we're talking about the comics, is so overscopingly large that should we background noise?
No, we
can
keep going for a bit.
Keep going.
I mean, I think we have another guest. Raquel Gutierrez is also a guest.
That's why we're podcasting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna meal prep. I'm sorry if it's in the background.
We'll make it work.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe and comics multiverse is so ridiculously large that the fact that I cannot think of any mainline trans protagonists is kind of fucking ridiculous.
Right.
I'm not counting Loki because Loki's not human. I'm not counting Zavin because Zavin's not human. I love them both, but neither of them are human.
Right.
You can't always do the aliens are trans.
Yeah.
You can't only do that.
If you're only doing their gender is non-binary because they're a shape-shifting alien, that's not a human who identifies as trans. That's a little bit different. They have a different concept of gender. It doesn't mean the same thing to them. If you're doing your only asexual characters are aliens or robots, fuck off.
Right.
For example.
Yeah.
For example, fuck off.
I invite you to cordially follow this example and fuck off.
I was reading an article that was saying that someone did the numbers and statistics for like this most recent television season. And I think it's been like some sort of high in terms of like queer representation in television. So I want to say Supergirl has a trans.
Yes, Supergirl has a trans superhero.
Oh, awesome!
Which is the first time I've ever heard of that.
Right. Yeah.
I was actually about a month or so before that happened. I was actively complaining, or that's not the right word. I was actively complaining that Marvel would never put me in a cape. I being non-binary, transmasculine individual. It's sort of like it was. How do I phrase this? I am so thrilled that Black Panther came out, and I am very sad that I don't get to have something like that because there's no iconic trans superhero the way there's an iconic black superhero.
Yeah.
In that same way. There isn't really in DC either. I don't know the name of the superhero off the top of my head who's in Supergirl right now, who's a trans character. Yeah. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, and then Ruby Rose is going to be a lesbian interpretation of Batwoman, I believe.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Filming that right now. I want to say like the costume picture is already out.
Nice. I'll have to go look at that.
Yeah.
There's I can think of like iconic gay and lesbian superheroes. I can think of iconic superheroes of a variety of races. I cannot think of a superhero who is trans.
Right. Did we want to say anything like lastly about like the whole concept of like why does representation matter specifically? I guess when we're talking about queer visibility. Just like that's a little tiny conclusion.
I guess something about visibility is even if you get the character once, there's still kind of a fear of it only being the one time. Because if that one character does not reflect your experience that closely, I know I get anxious with like certain like types of lesbian characters where I'm like, no, that's not how it's like at all for me, and I don't want everyone to think this is what it's like. It just makes me feel awkward to think about like my parents watching something like that, and that being the way they would understand it. Because even though my parents are nice and stuff, but it's still, we probably wouldn't speak about it in terms of the gay experience or whatever.
Like you create stigmas with like bad, like negative representation. Like I'm still thinking about like when Split came out last year, and people kind of thinking back to like what year did Psycho come out? Like the original Psycho, because that was
1960s.
Yeah, it was like 68, I want to say, or something like that, and. Like just creating that whole mental health stigma and then seeing that kind of like reawoken.
It never went away.
Yeah, it's.
I've railed against in creative writing classes the people who are like, "Oh no, this character's got a split personality. That's so edgy. The other personality's a serial killer. Fuck off."
Yeah.
Sorry, I slammed the table.
That's right.
Yeah. I guess in going off of what Laura said about like singular representation, I guess is like a representation is sort of like. If you only have one, it's like trying to pass off identity as a monocultural experience, which is when you have 8,000 odd like white male characters, white cis straight male characters in the MCU, for example, because there probably are about 8,000 named cis straight white male characters in the MCU if somebody bothered to count them all. You have a vast breadth of difference of personality, difference of life experience, attitude, outlook, characterization. You have endless different examples of what it's like to be a cis straight white man. And if the only trans character you have is, for example, Loki, that paints a very, 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 very specific picture of trans characters. And most people don't actually even know Loki is canonically gender fluid. So if you only have like 5 gay characters, or for example, everybody assumes that, okay, this is what gay is like. Or I'm trying to think of like a good example of something where this has happened. I can't even think of any like examples of any of the things I'm trying to talk about because there's so few characters to draw on. All of the examples I'm coming up with are in anime. There's a lot of like really specific like gay stereotypes in anime. Where often trans femininity and male homosexuality get conflated and basically used as the same token like onesan stereotype in anime, where it's like either like a very masculinely bodied individual stuffed into a dress and talking with a high voice, or predatorily hitting on everybody. And that becomes a stereotype standard, and if everybody is seeing that's your impression of, if everybody's seeing the exact same thing in every single piece of media and they're only writing the same stereotype over and over instead of presenting a nuanced actual character who just happens to be gay or happens to be trans or whatever, if you have no experience with real people in your life who are gay or whatever, you don't gain a full understanding of gay people as people. You gain an understanding of gay people as a stereotype.
Right. Before we move on, were there any, again, kind of talking about like the audience who might be listening to this episode out of curiosity with maybe like not as much knowledge as, obviously we do about this, or are there any like definitions or terms that we feel like we have to clarify on before we move on? Because we use the words, we use the term cis a lot, and some people construe that as like a slur of some sort.
For whatever reason, certain people in certain groups take cisgender as a slur or an insult when it is not meant to be one at all. It's just an opposite qualifier to transgender. If you're cisgender, it just means that you identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth. It's literally just like not transgender is the definition of cisgender. Right. It's not a slur. It's not meant to insult. It's meant to categorize in the same way we categorize ourselves.
Yeah, and again, I'm hoping that we don't sound like we're talking down to anyone. I think this is meant to be an educational
it's informative.
thing. Yeah. Okay, so
if we were talking down to you, I'd be saying fuck a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Followed by off.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Sorry, you can cut that.
Well, I'll figure it out in post. But yeah. So we
Clean up in
talked.
post. Clean up in post, producer.
We talked about some like recent example. We talked about Supergirl and like Batwoman and all those characters. But like, are there any standout characters that you can think of like maybe stuck out to you as either like an extreme positive or an extreme negative representation of what we're talking about? Any favorites or
Oh my god.
or the opposite of favorite?
Oh boy.
I need to not talk about anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, not talk about weeb shit challenge. Go. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna get into some slightly different flavored nerddom here with the favorite, but if y'all are into the Dungeons and the Dragons and listen to a different podcast / Twitch stream, recent Critical Role campaign had for a while the character Molly Mock Tea Leaf, who is lovely, played by Taliesin Jaffe, who is a wonderful voice actor. Molly Mock is a really queer, flamboyant tiefling individual, wears a rainbow of a jacket, flaunts gender stereotypes all over the place, canonically non-binary, uses he, him pronouns. He's wonderful. And I really appreciated that even if that character is no longer on the show, for a reason that is a massive spoiler, so I won't say it, really incredible to see a very... Like he was flamboyant. Molly is a flamboyant, wild, out there party character, which is sometimes can come off as like a gay stereotype. Right. But very much not that, because you're watching somebody's like D&D campaign where they're a professional voice actor playing a character, and they're good at making characters, so they make them nuanced and interesting individuals. So Molly was also like an interesting, like very heavily flawed, but still inexplicably the moral center of the group for a while. Like sort of a... Like, if he saw people not getting their money's worth for doing a lot of work, he would, like, secretly stick money in their pockets and pay them, or he made sure to, like, thank everybody who they interacted with personally, and sort of just was, like, a genuine, like, positive force for good. He has a quote about having left every town better than he entered it, and having left everywhere he'd ever been better than he found it. And it's just sort of like a... If people have to deal with me is another quote of... This, I think, is Taliesin talking about him. If people have to deal with me anyways, I'm going to make dealing with me a positive experience. And that was a really interesting, nuanced outlook on a character who was unapologetically, unabashedly queer, and I liked that a lot.
Laura, anyone pop up to mind?
Well, I have terrible taste.
Let's hear it.
I've been watching Riverdale, and
From the other room.
I like Cheryl. I honestly, okay, we'll talk about this a bit later. I'm thinking about it now, and I'm noticing that all of the kind of queer characters that I really like are, I would say good for me, but not great for representation.
Oh, that's rude.
My favorite coming out story ever, for reference, is Mac McDonald in Always Sunny.
Oh boy.
And I love that bad ship Root and Shaw from Person of Interest, a show that's not that good.
Right,
but
right.
Yeah. I don't even know.
I just love it. That's how I feel.
Okay, yeah, because I can think of a lot of like characters that stick out to me, but a lot of those characters where like those traits are not flaunted, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like I was playing, I've been talking about the video game Wandersong. I don't know if either of you have heard of that. It came out for Switch and PC like a few weeks ago. There will be cooking in the background, by the way.
I love you.
I think it really adds to the ambiance,
Yeah.
when I think about it.
It's sort of a reply all style ambient noise.
Like coffee shop or something.
Yeah, we're just
3D binaural microphones.
bunch of hipsters
ASMR.
hipsters in Brooklyn.
I'm not a hipster, I'm a weeb goth.
Yeah, okay, same.
You're a fucking hipster. I'm sorry. I'm very insulted by that.
Not by West Coast standards, I'm not.
I mean, to give some context, I'm drinking water out of a wine glass right now, so like it's.
You have so many mason jars you could be drinking.
That's true.
That's the most hipster thing you could have
Yeah.
possibly said.
Yeah, I know, but like there's.
it.
Anywho, Wandersong, like I didn't even notice until like mostly through the game that the protagonist, the unnamed bard that you play as, it's this game that kind of deconstructs the hero's journey and what it means to be a hero. It's very
exactly
good.
my aesthetic.
It's very good. It's for Steam and Switch. But anyway, read my review for it. But I did not notice that the bard uses they them pronouns until like the end of the game, which is crazy. And like
it's a song. It's a game about deconstructing the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Where the protagonist is a bard who is non-binary. That's just me.
Yeah. It's your story, actually.
Yes.
The game actually begins with like you trying to pick up a sword and use a sword, but you can't physically carry the sword around, so you just start using the power of song to save the world.
That's such a mood.
It's such a good game. But like it was all very understandable. I talked to Greg, I forget his last name. I will correct myself in the show notes. But like I interviewed him last week about because there is the bard and there's this character named Ash who was also non-binary. I literally tweeted at Greg like, is Ash non-binary? Because I really love them and I just want to protect them. And then he just texted me. He just replied back, yeah. Yeah, and like it was a very I asked him about that, and it was like, and he was just like, oh, I have people in my life who are non-binary. It just felt natural to me to like just have like fill out the cast of characters with people who like remind you of real people. So it was like this very organic. It wasn't there was no one like pushing an agenda or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just
that's I think what representation should be like is exactly what you just said. He said about filling your cast of characters with the people that you see and know in real life. And so when I see an entire cast of like straight cisgendered white characters, I'm like, is your life really that homogenous?
Yeah.
Do you really not know anybody who isn't white, who isn't straight? You really don't know any like pair of husbands. You really don't know any trans people. You really don't know any black people. Your life sounds kind of boring.
So I was.
You don't get any new opinions that way.
Shout out to my friend Morgan Muller because they were like low-key ranting to me about Ocean's 8.
Oh boy.
Because she was like, okay, there are 8 women characters in this movie and none of them are lesbian. Like statistically,
Are we sure none of them were lesbian?
I don't know. I have not seen Ocean's 8.
But I mean, no, they didn't say it explicitly, so they're not wrong.
Yeah.
Well, that's another issue. Like being like canonically queer
versus like subtext versus queer coding
versus saying it in an interview.
Yeah.
Right. Do either of you want to expand on that? Since like that definitely comes up when we're talking about Valkyrie.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think there have
Valkyrie, I love you.
been many instances of characters, especially anytime Kate McKinnon plays a character, I always try to confirm that they're not going to make Kate McKinnon play a heterosexual because she deserves so much more. Mm-hmm. She's just like... But in Ghostbusters and also The Spy Who Dumped Me, those are both instances of...
heavily implied gay.
Implying gay, or just even in the way that like Kate McKinnon kind of presents herself. Like, you just can't hide... Sometimes you just can't hide the fact that you're gay.
A massive lesbian, for example.
But discussing it in an interview and then not confirming it in the actual text, when it would be super easy just to be like, mention an ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Literally one line.
Yeah.
Would be all it took.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I want to say like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom had like a single line confirming that like who I thought was the only good character in that fucking movie, like what was lesbian, but like they cut out that one line for no reason.
Which is what they did with Valkyrie.
Yeah,
Ragnarok,
exactly.
Right? It was they filmed a scene indicating that she had had a previous relationship with the I believe the Valkyrie gal that died for her actually. The blonde comrade in arms of hers who like died fighting Hela.
Yeah.
And they cut that from the final version,
right? Which
is a tragedy as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think like Tyga said they like filmed a scene of like her walking out of a bedroom with someone, and apparently they like replaced it with some expositional scene or something like that. It's just what I read, but like apparently like Taika and Tessa Thompson like fought to have that scene included, and I don't know if it was Marvel or Disney or some combination.
Marvel's owned by Disney, so it was probably Disney.
Yeah. So
given that they're apparently rewriting parts of the new Mulan movie to make what's his face not come off as accidentally bisexual.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've heard rumors about that. I haven't seen a whole lot about it because I haven't been personally following it, but every now and then it graces my news feeds.
Those live action Disney movies that they're making, it's just I can't
Maleficent
stop
was
talking
good,
about
but
them.
the rest are a fiasco.
I've not watched a single one of them, not out of any spite or like any protest, but just because I'm not really interested.
Yeah, I have only watched Maleficent because that one was technically new. That there wasn't a cartoon Maleficent first.
Yeah, it was a new take on Sleeping Beauty, I guess, but I don't know.
I didn't give a goddamn about Sleeping Beauty to begin with, though, so I was more interested in Maleficent.
Did either of you watch Beauty and the Beast?
No.
Okay.
I got angry that I'd seen cosplays better than the dress they put her in.
Right.
So
yeah.
I said I didn't care.
I have no investment, but like I have my friend M. Horbeck has been ranting about the costume design in that movie for the longest time. Josh Gad's character
Is that LeFou?
Yes,
I don't know who anybody plays.
LeFou, yeah. And there's that whole shitstorm about he has. I think they phrased it. Verbatim, I'm quoting verbatim, an exclusively gay moment, I think. And it's literally just this one moment at the end where, like, everyone's dancing and they change partners, and for a split second you see him dancing with a guy. I think that's literally it.
I really love the phrase exclusively gay because it sounds like you're filling the screen. It has to be rainbows. It has, like, because exclusively gay, like, that's kind of an awkward adverb. It's like exclusively gay, like, confirming this person is not bisexual. He's just gay. Yeah. Or exclusively gay, like, the content of that moment.
The content is exclusive.
Just, like,
you cannot witness it if you're heterosexual.
Yeah.
Yes, you can't witness it if you're... If you can see it, Emperor's New Clothes, if you can see it, you're gay.
Yeah. It caused such a shitstorm because they're like super conservative people who's like, the gay agenda in my movies, I'm not making my kids watch this. And then, on the other side, they're like, the discourse about like, queer coding in older Disney animated films, and the fact that it's like in this.
I mean, older Disney's full of a whole lot of landmines of queer coding and racism and problematic everything left and right. Yeah. So I don't know why we're trying to compare anything to older Disney because it's going to be worse.
Yeah, but they had some really nice hand-drawn backgrounds.
Oh, they sure did. They rotoscoped everything too. It was really nice.
That's cool.
There's like people who actually did the like dancing for. I think it was Sleeping Beauty actually.
Okay.
Maybe Cinderella, I don't remember which.
Laura, I want to say that you and Betsy marathoned a bunch of Star Trek movies at some point in recent months. Is that correct?
Yes, we watched 6 Star Trek movies.
Are we just talking like the original series movies, or like?
It was 4, 5, 6, and then the new ones 1, 2, 3.
Oh, so you saw Beyond then?
Yes, I did see Star Trek Beyond, which is the one.
Idris Elba played a dude, and they're stuck on a planet.
Yeah, but definitely all blended together.
Was in it? Nobody told me that.
They put him in heavy makeup is the thing.
Oh, okay.
Which is another issue because I feel like they've been doing that to a lot of performers of color. But anyway, that's a different topic. So Sue had his own exclusively gay moment.
Yes, he had an exclusively gay moment.
That was like a lot more though, because I've seen clips of that even if I haven't seen the movie. Like he's got like a husband and a kid.
Yeah.
That he has like a whole little like reunion scene with.
Yeah. And for some reason, people always forget that Star Trek is literally about inclusivity.
Exactly. Like, even back to the original show's casting, it was about inclusivity.
It's a socialist utopia.
Yeah. I read an interview with somebody who was talking about how thrilled they were to see Uhura on the show for the first time when the original Star Trek aired, and having gotten so excited that they went over to their mom like, Mom, there's a black lady on TV and she's not a maid.
Yeah.
I don't remember whose interview it was.
Right, yeah.
I feel like that's bad.
Was it Mae Jemison, the astronaut?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, if it's not, then...
It's somebody, whoever they were, it was a good interview.
We'll throw it in the show notes when we find out later. But there is a bit of discourse between George Takei and Simon Pegg, because George Takei was like, this is...
George Takei being a gay actor.
Yeah, and he was saying like, this is like not really within like Gene Roddenberry's original vision of Sulu, and he was like kind of against this. Simon Pegg responded saying like, I respectfully disagree. I'm hella paraphrasing, but he was basically like, he's still the same character. Like trying to prove a point that like your opinion should not change on him just because you now know this thing about him. And also like if you create a character for the sole purpose of being gay, then that's like getting into tokenism, is what he said.
Yeah, like it makes words.
Yeah, words are hard.
It's nothing changes about Sulu just because now you know Sulu is gay, versus if you make a new character to introduce to this world where there's already all the other characters are the pre-existing characters, then you know that they just made this character just to be the gay guy.
Yeah, and they do that in comics a lot, right? I think they made Bobby Drake gay, I want to say.
Did they?
Yeah, and they made one of the Green Lanterns, not Hal Jordan, but one of the older ones even, like they retconned him as gay.
Interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, but Starship Beyond was literally a movie about, hey, we have this wonderful space station where there are all these people of different races all living together in unison, and the bad guy's like, oh, I hate how everyone's all together in unison. I'm gonna destroy this place. And like everyone was like, oh, they like secretly made like a Brexit movie about which is like a very Star Trek thing to do.
Also, that was Whoopi Goldberg, who
That's
Star Trek.
I knew it was somebody big. Thank you.
Guinan,
so I don't think Whoopi Goldberg is an astronaut, but she fucking could be.
But still someone really fucking
She could
cool.
definitely just buy a plane and go to space if she wants.
Yeah.
She's in charge.
Brief tangent.
I'd accept that.
Yeah, I was at New York Comic Con, and for some reason she was the moderator of the Good Omens panel.
Oh, neat.
Which like I was okay with.
I'm okay with that.
Is
she in it?
I don't think so. So that was just confused why she was there. I guess she just really likes the book. I don't know.
I don't know. If I was Neil Gaiman, I would do whatever the fuck I wanted. I get Whoopi Goldberg for my panels.
Right?
That's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're getting very off the topic.
Yeah. So now that we're over a half an hour in, let's talk about Marvel.
I mean, we've had some asides.
Yeah.
Shady.
I mean, we need this context to talk about like why, because I can tell you straight up that the movies have not been doing a good job. No. So. I
don't think a single gay character besides Valkyrie in the movies.
Yeah,
Valkyrie's
even so, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's almost. I don't want to get into a J.K. Rowling tangent.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So we won't talk about that person.
Joe Rowling.
Delete.
Yeah, but maybe we'll get that at the end. But there was an interview with Playlist. Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios. He was asked, like, are we getting a gay, bi, LGBTQ out character in the MCU? Is this even in the works? Yes. The Playlist asks, that's the answer? Kevin Feige says, yeah, that's the answer. Playlist says, it's not something we've seen yet, I'm guessing. Kevin Feige says both. Playlist says, there's like, what? Both? Feige says, both ones you've seen and ones you haven't seen.
No confirmation on who that is.
Yes.
It's one of those things where they're like, oh, we don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
And last time I saw that happen, not to vaguely weeb on Maine or shade people on Maine here, but Voltron, excuse me, they had a whole panel where they were like, oh, we're going to introduce Shiro's boyfriend or fiance or whatever, and then they like killed him in the episode he showed up in. So I'm really afraid, having seen that interview text now, that that's what they're going to do, is they're going to introduce a gay character and kill them in the movie they show up in.
Yeah,
as you do.
Yeah, I feel like bury your gays and marry your gays are also vocabulary.
Yeah, bury your gays being a trope of... Stemming from a thing in the 1950s where publication standards were not allowing people to publish works with a happy ending where the characters were queer and happy. They had to die, break up, something tragic, horrible had to happen to them. It was mostly lesbian pulp fiction, but sort of across the board, queer fiction was not allowed to have happy endings because that would present queerness in a positive light.
Right.
And so that was like a publishing censorship standard from the 50s. And for whatever reason, it's continued on into the modern era as a trope that people are often not even aware that they're falling into the trope of because they're so attached to like the idea of like, oh, this will be so dramatic and shocking, like in The 100, for example.
Yeah.
like right after what's her face? I don't know the name of it. Lexa and Clark? Is her name Clark?
I have no
I
idea.
think you're correct.
Yeah, right after these two women get together, consummate their relationship, Lexa dies like the next day, and that's a trope.
Yeah,
It's a bad trope.
it's one of the several sins that The Walking Dead has committed.
Oh, God.
Because that's the last I'll talk about The Walking
Yeah,
Dead.
let's not. I don't know.
Even like the new Star Trek show did that.
Oh, did it?
Which and they tried to be like, oh no, the cast members still in season 2. Like we're gonna do something with it. It was like, oh great, they're gonna have like tragic like gay ghost story or something like that.
The only way to do this right is to do it the Taz way and resurrect both the lesbians as immortal dryads in the finale.
Yeah.
Thanks, Taz.
Yeah. Stephen Moffat kind of did his version of that in the end of his Doctor Who run, where Bill Potts, who I must say is surprisingly a well-written character for the most part, does...
Considering Moffat, that's...
Exactly. Like, she technically dies, but also her spirit lives on with, like, her lover, and they explore space together, and the like cosmic space lesbian ghosts, and it's like, okay, everybody lives, because I'm Stephen Moffat, so... I actually like Capaldi's last season. I think for all of his sins, he stuck the landing. But I'm glad he's gone. Yeah. So there's this great piece by Heather Alexandra on Kotaku. I think the title, I think the headline's literally just like "Let queer characters be happy."
Yeah.
Which I'll also put in the show notes.
It would be more shocking and revolutionary at this point for queer characters to get a happy ending because we don't ever get that.
Right.
It's always you gotta die or break up or cheat on each other if we're gonna start shading Jessica Jones now.
Oh yeah. Well, let's start off with, I think chronologically, I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had the first.
Yeah.
I forget the timeline of
I don't
like
even
the air
remember the
dates.
name of this character.
Joey Gutierrez, I believe.
Gutierrez.
I think he showed up in season
3 or 4,
3.
somewhere in the middle.
So, yeah, season 3 is
It
like
was right when they were beginning the Inhumans kind of stuff.
yeah, there was an outbreak from all the fish oil pills.
I'm pretty sure he's an original MCU character. There was this whole thing where like this thing that gave Inhumans their power got disseminated into the water in the oceans, and so people who were eating fish oil pills became Inhumans.
Yeah, it's less ridiculous in the show than
No, it's pretty ridiculous
fine,
even in the show. It's absolutely wild. I remember seeing that season finale where they like zoomed down through the water, and I was just like,
that was pretty cheesy.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure he's an MCU original character. I don't think he's in the comics.
I don't even think he has a code name.
I don't think so. No. He doesn't have a superhero name. He's just Joey Gutierrez.
Yeah, the first scene of season 3 is like
him.
Yeah, you see him
accidentally melting shit. Right?
Yeah, so like everything like in his apartment is ruined. You see like the shell that he came out of when he went through Terrigenesis, and he's like walking around the street confused.
In Seattle, this was wild as fuck to me because I'm from Seattle. I recognized where he was. I was like, wait a fuck, that's downtown.
Oof, that's shot on location for once.
Yeah, every now and then they do that, and it's like, hey.
Yeah, kind of weird.
Yeah,
and,
I recognized so many places they shot on location in Jessica Jones. It's actually kind of unsettling.
Yeah,
there's a lot around Bryant Park.
Okay, yeah.
We'll get subway stations that I come in and out of every day.
But I think he was like exclusively a season 3 character because he went to this whole plot line where he
can't control his powers.
Yeah, and then
he hates what he's become.
Yeah, and then S.H.I.E.L.D. like helps him get through, and he starts to become like an asset to the team. And they took this normal guy and just made him do like Black Ops missions for him.
Which is kind of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. way by that point. Like they adopted Skye out of a van.
Yeah, Yo-Yo. Rodriguez, who's I think a good character.
I like Yo-Yo. Yeah. Up until the like weird sudden religious subplot thing that happened.
Sure. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. The thing with Joey is that he just disappeared from the show. So
he just sort of at a point was like, fuck this, and left.
Yeah, so I think there was a verbal mention of an ex-boyfriend in like his first episode, I want to say. And I think the last episode he was in, like, my mind might have made this up, but I feel like there was an episode where he was like flirting with the dude, with like some unnamed character.
I vaguely remember there might have been a flirtation, but it's been a while since I've watched that season. Yeah,
like seeing queer characters like
casually queer.
Yeah, and like, you know, with unnamed characters, and like usually like the first person they see in the show, you know. Yeah. I've never been really sure how I felt about that. How they kind of that's the way they depict it. And then you do see him actually go on a date
Yeah.
which really gets interrupted because
It's time to go S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, and then this crazy thing happens with the Inhumans, and he's like, okay, fuck
Yeah,
it,
I'm
bye,
not doing this. I
guys.
want to go back to being normal now that I can
Yeah.
control my powers. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
quitting your super secret organization.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, so that was the end of that.
Yeah. By Joey, at least he got to survive.
Yeah, he was not buried. He was metaphorically, but not physically.
Yeah, they fridged him, basically.
Yeah, sure.
Which, that's terminology people aren't familiar with. It's sort of you got rid of a character in a way that is sort of like you put him on ice. It literally what happened to Bucky at the end of Civil War. They literally fridged Bucky. God.
Yeah, hasn't he had enough of that?
Leave Bucky Barnes alone.
I know.
I'm not gonna get into
Laura, how recently did you watch season 2 of Jessica Jones? I feel like you were holding off on binging that, and you did recently. Is that correct?
Yeah, I watched it over the summer.
Any thoughts on Jeri Hogarth in both seasons 1 and 2 that stand out to you?
So Jerry's character, in the notes here, it says Jeri Hogarth in the comics.
Yeah, male character.
I had no idea that Jeri was a male character in the comics.
Right.
And to me, at least, I felt like there was novelty of having, like, this, like, I don't know, kind of not so nice, rich character who's not that likable. I don't know. I guess I appreciate that they don't really try to make her likable.
Right.
Yeah, there was that scene in season 2.
Oh, yeah.
There is a scene in season 2 where I guess they get high and dance and stuff in her apartment. She invites some ladies over. And that just, I guess in the context of the show, she finds out that she is terminally ill.
I think she has ALS, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She kind of goes on a bender.
Because I was going to say that seems very out of character for season 1 Jeri, who is like this cold, calculating nightmare lawyer bitch.
Yeah, she kind of like has some emotional vulnerabilities that get kind of taken advantage of in the plot in season 2. But I don't know, I didn't think it was like too visually exploitative. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess this is happening now, and I'm gonna wait for it to be over. It's not my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah. Because
it's kind of a sad scene.
Yeah, she had quite an arc in season 1, like, because she was going through some sort of divorce. I think
she was going through a divorce with her partner. I don't know if they ever clarified if it was open marriage or a civil union. Because she had been trying to get into / been cheating with already her younger, hotter secretary, also a woman.
Yep.
So,
there's that.
Some uncomfortable.
Yeah, like, the power dynamic with the age.
It's a little bit like that would be an uncomfortable power dynamic regardless of the gender. It's your boss and a secretary kind of a thing.
Yeah, and the age difference too.
Age difference.
And that's a problem, especially with like representations of gay men. The kind of like age difference thing.
That's the thing I usually see in like negative representations of gay men is like young guy in his 20s and like a older guy in his like 50s.
Yeah, there's like kind of like a grooming sort of
there's definitely
predatory
that aspect of
stereotype.
And then the narrative like puts you technically speaking on Jeri's side because she's Jessica's friend and she keeps bailing Jessica out.
Right.
And I felt so bad for her ex-wife.
Yes.
She got screwed over so badly.
The ex-wife got the worst possible end of the stick. I don't even remember her name. I feel bad.
In every
this
way.
Poor woman.
She got thrown on the train tracks, and then one scene, Jessica did, and then there was the whole.
Yeah, Jessica like threw her into the subway tracks.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, Death by 1,000 cuts is the
awful.
And then,
absolutely awful.
And then the younger girlfriend came in, intervened, and effectively she killed.
Yeah, they
the partner.
inadvertently murdered her.
Yeah. And then Jeri Hogarth pieces out, just like, hey, I'm not gonna help you.
Yep.
Which is like
dick move.
They're like it's like stacking upon so many terrible things.
It was just a nightmare. Which, if this had come after years of other examples of lesbian representation, I don't know if I would be nearly as pissed about it. But because these are the only major lesbians or lesbians at all in the MCU, that's it. It's cheating and murder.
Yeah.
And torturing someone for divorce papers.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And there's this
Blackmailing
whole through
someone
line
for divorce papers.
Yeah. And the through line of like Jeri Hogarth like trying to exploit the powered people that she knows.
Jeri's lawful evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like
She's a lawyer,
Yeah.
and
Most
she's
lawyer
not nice.
characters are lawful evil,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous because my DM from the game store is a lawyer and he's chaotic neutral. For sure.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of he's great. I love Robert, he's great.
Yes.
But
Say
I'm afraid
it
of him.
on the record.
Yeah, on the record. I'm terrified, but he's great.
Right.
Anyways.
Yeah, Trinity from the Matrix. That's all I can think about her. Yeah. Her plot line in season 2 was like it was interesting, but
on the surface description here, it's not too dissimilar from Iron Man 2.
Oh,
which is
sure.
interesting. Because, like, basically the same thing.
Like self-destructive tendencies.
Self-destructive
Yeah.
tendencies due to going through a life-threatening, life-ending medical crisis.
Yeah.
That's literally the plot of Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
But that's something that, we've come to expect out of Tony Stark as a character, and something that we have in general come to expect out of straight men as characters, is that going on a bender, having an orgy kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way they deal with it, I don't know how they deal with it in Jessica Jones, but like the way they deal with it is fixing it in Iron Man 2.
Yeah. There are some crazy like revenge porn.
Yeah.
Like, she's
a
very spiteful person.
Evil when
Yeah.
she finds her footing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. I don't have great taste. I think sometimes I enjoy like kind of quote unquote bad queer representation or whatever, just because it's something different, and I just feel worse when they try to do something good and it doesn't land. Yeah. So I'm just like, oh, whatever, lean in.
Yeah, no, like
evil lesbian lawyer. Go for it.
I agree. Like, I liked Jeri as a character in season 1. I haven't seen season 2 yet, so I'm a little talking out my ass about it.
Sure.
But so I like her as a character as a fan. I don't like her as a queer person who writes media myself, because there's not enough out there to counterbalance her.
Yeah, that's important part of like having people behind the scenes who are actually queer and like people from marginalized communities. Yeah. Which probably aren't enough, to be honest. On a more positive note, I would say Karolina and Nico and Runaways.
Hell yes.
Yeah. So it was funny. I don't know if Raquel can hear me, but we used to do the Runaways recap, and neither of us had noticed the overtones in episode 1 of Karolina, like clearly.
Yeah, she goes to a club.
Women. Yeah.
She like does
like
a drug by accident or something, or on purpose. I don't remember. And she sees like some ladies like dancing and kissing, and she's like,
that could be me.
She's like, yeah, that could be me, but I'm playing.
Yeah. And I think what's really significant about that pairing is that, they're not the first, queer characters in the MCU, even though they're like few and far between. But they're two like main characters, who are paired together, which I think it's a different dynamic.
Like they're protagonists.
Yeah. Yeah. So that'll like definitely be a centerpiece, especially moving forward. Are you having fun with that pumpkin there, Nat? What's going on?
Sometimes I just need a fiddle and I don't have like.
Yeah, that's fair. Thing. Yeah. In case people have never been able to hear it through the mic and through all of these like 20 so episodes, I always have like I'm fidgeting with something. Like I literally have like a fidget. I have the Jeff Gershman fidget spinner.
I almost brought my Iron Man fidget spinner, but I'm mad about it because it's got the mask of the Iron Man suit in the middle instead of the arc reactor. And I think that's
that would have been
hugely
cooler.
Wasted opportunity. I kind of want to take it apart and like make because I've seen ones where they like light up on the spinning outside parts, and I kind of want to make them like LED little arc reactors in there. Yeah, but I'm not that good of an engineer to do it. Anyways. Yeah,
so I want to hear from Nat about how the characters are different in the comics, seeing how, even if you haven't reread them in a while.
The show first,
okay,
so
I was wondering which order, because I wanted to hear Laura talk about the show, and then you talk about
let's talk about
whoever wants to go
first. And then I'll talk about what's different.
So in the show, Karolina starts out as kind of the standard blonde popular girl. She has
Scientologist.
She's a Scientologist. Also, is a thing. She's a Scientologist.
You can't see the face I'm making, but it's oh god.
So she does.
Really?
She does. So she's the
Scientology
daughter.
is a cult.
Yeah, and this is a story about a cult.
I mean, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, she's not casually. This is not casual science. This is not a great representation of Scientology because it was casual.
Yeah,
I just love how they casually represented Scientology.
Yes.
Like it's the normal
thing.
thing.
Scientology, they extort and kidnap.
It's not, and that's what happens in this show. So Karolina is the daughter, like the kind of good girl daughter of a cult leader. And Nico is the kind of like the goth edgy girl with her magic staff, and they get ready for a party together, and one of the characters comments on them having like a vibe, and then Nico and Alex have maybe not an official relationship, but they've kissed.
If they have a thing in the comics or not. It's been too long.
And they didn't really address that at the end of the season when Karolina and Nico, they kiss again, and they seem really happy. So I have a feeling next season we're going to see, like,
drama.
Like maybe like Alex's feelings were hurt. We'll see if they
can
do
actually
like
speak to that a little bit.
Ooh.
Having seen, like, I'm only going to say stuff that they said publicly in the panel because I can't talk about the actual screeners they sent me. But like, they're in the house in season 2, and they joke how like Alex's room is like below the room that Nico and Karolina are staying in. So like So without saying what the line was, but like they do address that in a scene in episode 1, which they showed at the panel. So like Alex and Nico like kind of fell out. Like they keep getting into arguments with stuff, and I never remember what they're about. But that happened, and then what was it? It was like some school dance or something where they hooked up, I think. Was it a school dance? Or
I
don't
like
remember.
Fundraiser.
They were all dressed up nicely.
There was an event. And they got dressed up. It was the CW event of the week.
Yes. Yeah, because Gert and Greg Sulkin. Chase, yes.
Gert Chase, we get some.
Gert Chase,
we get Gert Chase.
Nat is making a.
What, you don't like Gert Chase,
Nat? Is.
I don't like Chase as a character.
Well, anywho, yeah, and then they have that moment where like both couples encounter each other after their respective moments, and they're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, we were figuring out what's happening here. And then they run away at the end of season 1, so that's where they're at, and everything has kind of been like
at the end of season 1. Giant earthquake, next city, LA.
Yeehaw!
My favorite. The last shot of the show, you
secrets.
see a newspaper, and it says like big earthquake. Is LA next? And
I
I'm
mean,
like, well, fuck, yeah,
speaking,
sure, I guess.
California.
It would be like 2012, where like the entire state just goes underground in a giant hollow hole.
There's a movie called 10.5, which is a terribly unscientific earthquake movie.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about San Andreas Fault.
No, that's also bad. But in 10.5, the entire state of California gets ripped off the coast by a 10.5 magnitude earthquake, which if you don't know anything about earthquake magnitudes, they stop
That's
at 10.
a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big fucker, is what it is. If you don't know about science, the technical term is, oh, fuck, this one sucks, guys. Hey, this sucks. Oh, fuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shit, evacuate.
Refer back to our episode Betsy about science in the MCU.
Yes.
Is episode Betsy like the official term for the episode she was in? Kind of like the different character episodes in Final Fantasy.
Oh, sure. I mean, I forget the number off the top of my head, so I'm going to say episode Betsy.
Episode Betsy.
Yeah. So was that where we say... Oh, did you want to talk about the comics?
Nico and Karolina are not a thing in the comics. I think there's like a complicated situation going on, but at least later in the comics, Karolina has a relationship with the character named Zabin, who is a Skrull? I don't remember. It's been a long fucking time. Yeah. Non-human alien individual shapeshifter of non-binary gender. Has at various points presented either male or female. And Karolina, being a lesbian, has an issue with any time that Zavin presents masculinely, and gets kind of like uncomfortably pushy about Zavin only presenting female and while they're in a relationship. And I don't remember a lot of the details, but it was like uncomfy for me to read as a non-binary person who has dated someone who identifies with a monosexuality, which is to say somebody who's only attracted to one gender. Having heard those similar words before from somebody I dated, it's unpleasant. It's weird. It's bad. It's
I can only imagine.
It erases an aspect of somebody's identity to be like, yeah, no, I totally love you, but only sometimes. Only when you look like this. Only when you act like this. It's controlling, and it's bad. It was an uncomfortable representation. So I'm actually kind of nervous and scared about whether or not they're going to put Zavin in the TV show.
Yeah, that also seems to be one of those situations where who is writing this, like, maybe doesn't reflect the reality because so many lesbians have, like,
there's a lot of
are non-binary or have complicated relationships with gender. So that, I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible and, like, hurtful. Yeah, it
reflects a very non-nuanced view of queerness. Especially given that Zavin is not human, and why should a non-human race or species have human concepts of gender to begin with?
Yeah, and not that someone wouldn't do that in real life after like Karolina acts in the comics, but it just sounds
it's not outside the realm of possibility, but
it just certainly sounds like, oh, that would be like a kind of sad scene.
It's emotionally abusive to tell someone that you're not attracted to while you're dating them, or rather, how do I phrase this? It's not a great foundation for a relationship to tell the person you're in a relationship with, oh, I'm only attracted to you half the time when you look a specific way. Because both the masculinity and the femininity are part of Zavin's identity. It's not like they stop being Zavin when they are male.
Right. I don't know what the plans for that character is, but I'm curious. I'm curious if like they even know how to like, if they would know how to navigate through that.
Yeah, my hope would be that they just either, like what they do with Nico and Karolina, like write something new into the plot.
Yeah.
Is Karolina an alien in the comics?
I think so.
I believe so, yeah.
Is she an alien in the show, or have we not
implied?
Really addressed that
they use the word alien in season 2.
The implication is that her powers are of alien origin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're related to the cult, the Scientology that she's in. Just,
We're fidgeting with stuff.
There's
so much bullshit on this table.
Yeah.
Sorry, my table's very interesting.
It's good.
Yeah. No, we should record here every episode,
yes.
but
anyways.
Yeah, but I mean, so given the context of like, MCU of yore, like, was this a good first step at least?
I think so.
Karolina and Nico?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say first step.
It wasn't the first
yeah.
step,
and I think it's nice that it's kind of in like a show that's for teens.
Yeah.
I think that's,
it's
hopefully we get more than,
just
Karolina and Nico. But I think it's nice. Runaways did like kind of a nice job.
Yeah.
With more.
Both the Runaways and the Young Avengers are some of the queerer parts of the MCU.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people online talking about how they're quote unquote maybe gearing up for Young Avengers because the Ant-Man movies have had Cassie Lang in them. Yeah. She's a member of the Young Avengers team, but we haven't seen any of the rest of them yet.
Yeah, there have been rumors going around that they cast an older Cassie Lang for Avengers 4 because there's going to be some time travel shit in that movie.
Yeah, there's already going to be time travel shit, which I'm thrilled about.
Yeah.
This isn't an Infinity War shame podcast, though.
Give it to me.
Anyways, if they did Young Avengers, there would be no way to do Young Avengers without queerness because at least half of them are queer. Almost all of them are
Do you think that would actually be like a movie? Because I feel like the movies have been...
I'd prefer it to be a TV show if they did it.
Yeah. Because the weird news that's been going around is that Marvel Studios, not Marvel Television, is making like TV shows for Disney's streaming service about MCU characters. So like for the examples that I think the Hollywood Reporter had the story, the examples they gave were like a Loki limited series and a Scarlet Witch limited series, for example.
Okay.
So
I'd
and like,
be interested.
Where's my
in
Thor
that.
Goes Grocery Shopping limited series?
I'd be interested in a Wanda one, actually,
Yeah.
given that she got 0 character development and they killed Pietro for no fucking reason.
yeah.
Like, I'll say this for the rest of my life, X-Men Pietro steals the fucking show and he's infinitely superior to MCU Pietro.
We're talking like Evan Peters versus
Evan Peters is a much better Pietro Maximoff.
Yeah. Sure.
I understand why they retconned parts of the backstory away from the Maximoff twins
Legal
in
nonsense.
Age of Ultron, given
Yeah.
the legal nonsense that they didn't own the X-Men at that point. But
Yeah.
honestly, if you don't own Magneto and the X-Men, why are you introducing his children into the MCU? That's stupid. And even then, you don't need to erase the whole rest of the backstory, being that these 2 characters are Jewish Romani.
Yeah, just oh dear God, just at Joss on Twitter and hit him up and be like,
I don't
yo,
want to talk to Joss on Twitter. I want to fight him in the street.
Is Joss on Twitter? I thought
I
he
hope
left
not.
Twitter.
I think he went back on the
he came back. I mean,
unless
you
he went off
can't
again.
resist the tweets.
Yeah. Anyways,
Did you want to speak? Wait, did you want to talk about the Maximoffs in the comics? I forget if you wanted to mention that, or was I
briefly I just got into it a
Okay,
little bit,
got it,
which is
yeah.
that they're Magneto's kids, and Magneto is inextricably tied to. He's a Holocaust survivor.
Right.
He's a Holocaust survivor who marries and has kids with a Romani woman. Mm-hmm. So the Maximoffs are canonically in the comics Jewish Romani, and taking that away from them in the movies makes and then having them work for a Nazi organization is awful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, these 2 characters who were Jewish children of a Holocaust survivor in the comics are Hydra tools in the movie. Fuck off with that.
Oh my God, I did not put that together until now.
Yeah, welcome to it.
Okay. Oh, let's calm down a little bit. Yeah. I was mentioning like the streaming stuff because I'm interested if that's going to be their medium for like the movie studios form of like long form storytelling to have more opportunities like
it's
that.
It's kind of hard to adapt like longer running comic series
Right.
into a singular movie. That doesn't quite work the same way.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think they should have done Civil War at this point. They don't
Yeah,
have characters. They don't have half the characters that were important to Civil War in the comics. Spider-Man.
They threw Spider-Man in there.
They threw Spider-Man in there and ruined his entire stint in Civil War. He switches sides in the comics.
Yeah. That's like the main.
That's half the point.
Yeah.
There's a whole Young Avengers and Runaways issue of Civil War. Mm-hmm. Like by issue, I mean like the book. I don't know the trade. That's it.
Yeah.
There's a whole trade.
Yeah.
Book of the Young Avengers and the Runaways in Civil War.
Yeah, I'm really like I don't like Arrowverse stuff a lot, but I'm really envious of them as able to like tie in stuff together because they're all like they're like different shows on like different days of the week and they all kind of react to each other.
Yeah.
Whereas like everything's
like
scattered
that.
amongst networks and movies and stuff like that. So
and different people own different stuff. Like Sony owns X-Men.
They
did own X-Men. I think Disney Marvel bought it.
It's a weird deal.
It's weird.
Yeah. Venom came out.
Venom came
Listen
out.
to our Venom episode.
Deadpool came out.
Yeah.
The only reason they can get away with making Deadpool is because Disney doesn't own it.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Venom too.
Yeah, I mean that deal will go through sometime in 2019, but like they can't. I don't even think they can like write anything like X-Men / Avengers until the deal is officially through. But they're probably thinking about it right now.
Mm-hmm. And then somebody else completely different owns the Fantastic Four, which is why they still suck.
Fuck that. Yeah.
Which, I'm fine with that. The fact that Reed Richards wasn't in Civil War is a huge relief to me because he's part of the reason Civil War was such a fiasco in the comics, and also he's a massive dickwad.
And I think they already have the Tony Stark character of like being like, the burden is mine.
Richards and Stark are like science rivals in the comics. To my knowledge, although Tony Stark is chaotic good / neutral, and Reed Richards is on the I think true neutral, sometimes leaning into the occasional neutral evil tendency. As far as I can tell, he's technically a superhero, but also he clones Thor and makes him into a murder machine by accident in Civil War.
That happened.
That's a real thing that happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also hate the Fantastic Four because the only woman is the Invisible Woman.
Oh,
and that's just a little on the nose.
That's
that's a good fucking point, girl.
Just a little on the nose.
That's a good point.
Bryn Schoenberg, everyone.
Bryn Schoenberg on the
Thank you.
mic.
Mic drop.
And she's off.
Yeah, anyways, there's no queer Fantastic Fours.
Yeah, it's strange because I think, because you're right, like, I think a different company does have the rights. I think because Fox distributes those movies too, but there is like some other production company that had the rights to it. But when you read that Disney Fox press release, they mentioned Fantastic Four, so it's like,
technically Fox owned Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and it's
then they remade a shit version of it because they were about to run out on their rights.
Yeah, that's also why the Andrew Garfield movies of Spider-Man exist. And then the Spider-Man thing's weird because Sony still technically owns the rights, but like they can loan the character to Marvel.
Spider-Man movies had some pretty homoerotic tendencies when they were Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you're gonna cast Dane DeHaan, you're gonna. Wow, that was a good choice. Yeah. That was a personal attack on me.
Is that similar? I don't remember that character off the top of my head. Is that similar to like Kate McKinnon, where it's like you can't make this character?
The reason I like Dane DeHaan so much actually is because he was in Chronicle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, that's a good movie.
Which I fucking adore Chronicle.
Yeah,
it's great.
It is Akira.
A little bit. It's very Akira. Yeah.
We should all sit down together and watch Valerian sometime.
I just like Dane DeHaan.
Yeah, no,
if you're gonna cast somebody as like the charismatic Draco in leather pants kind of type of character, it's Dane DeHaan.
Still need to watch Kill Your Darlings at some point, but
it's good.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're kind of already jumping into like my question of like what should. I think we know what Marvel Television should do. They should just get better writers.
Yeah.
But in terms of like...
some of their stuff is good.
Yeah.
Season 1, Jessica Jones,
Season 1,
good.
Jessica Jones,
Season
so
1,
fucking
Daredevil,
good.
really fucking good.
Yeah.
Daredevil Season 1 was great.
I can tell you Season 3 is also fine.
Okay.
Season
because Season 2 is shit.
I'll tell you about Season 3 after we record this.
Yeah. But Season 2 of Daredevil was a fiasco as far as I'm concerned. I hated it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a mess.
Defenders was a mess. I'm going to pretend Iron Fist has not yet been made because it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I will say Season 2 deserves a bronze medal for most improved show, but it's still not that great.
It's still racist.
Yeah, just
Conceptually. The best thing they did for Iron Fist was matching him up against Luke Cage in Defenders and letting Luke just tear him apart.
Yeah, on his privilege.
Being a shitty appropriative white boy.
Yeah. Check out our Luke Cage Iron Fist R.I.P. podcast episode, by the way.
I still need to finish Luke Cage. It's very atmospheric. Which is nice.
Yeah. Oh, we also talk about that in the episode. It's great. Anyway, but the Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think has been pretty consistently good post Winter Soldier. I think.
Yeah.
But in terms of like getting, like when you hire someone to make a kung fu show. Do you want to get like someone who actually understands like the culture that the source material appropriated in the first place, or at least knows anything about the comics or the context, or do you want to get the guy who's available and also ruins Dexter?
Yeah.
God.
They got the guy who ruined Dexter, but anyway. And then he after that he shit all over Inhumans, which is Anyway, I already had my Scott Buck rant last week, but yeah. But like getting
what could they do better? Do it at all. Put a queer character in your movies on the big screen.
Get queer creators,
Get queer creators. You got. If you can do it for Black Panther, if you can get an entirely black crew, director, cast, whatever.
And look how awesome it was.
And look how amazing it was.
Yeah. Taika
broke the blockbuster, everything.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was amazing. Everybody loved it. Everybody. Yeah. Not just black people.
Yes. Taika was adamant about having like indigenous crew members when they were filming. I think they were filming in New Zealand or in Australia. And like
for Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah. When you get people who are personally involved with the content that you're creating on an emotional level, it's better because they're invested in it.
Yeah,
they're invested in making it good.
And that's why, like, we push back on the criticism of like, oh, why do they have to have a woman direct Wonder Woman? Why do they have to have a woman direct Captain Marvel? And someone's like, oh, why don't they get a fish to direct Aquaman in Bad Faith or some dumb shit like that?
Why don't they get a big fish to direct Big Fish?
Right. Yeah, real criticisms I see on Twitter on the daily basis.
Well, first of all, they know why.
Yes, yeah.
Second of all, if they got, like, well, I mean, if Jason Momoa is going to be Aquaman, if they got somebody from, like, an indigenous heritage or from a Polynesian country to direct Aquaman, that would be great, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, it's like saying...
Or, like, what's another example? If they got somebody Chinese to fix Iron Fist, for example.
Yeah,
Although, quite frankly, the whole premise should be scrapped.
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
they absolutely could have reclaimed the whole...
They could have taken it all back.
Yeah.
And instead they just kept making it shitty.
Yeah. At season 1, when you want... It's a clear rush job. If everything is first draft, and we only had 2 days to prep this... It's a goddamn mess.
I think part of my concern is that there aren't a lot of big-name gay characters or queer characters in the comics that they could make a movie out of in the same way that they're doing Captain Marvel and all of the new heroes that they're introducing, who I'm blanking out on right now.
But even if it's not the characters, if it's the creators and people who don't feel like it's tacked on, quote unquote, to have a gay character.
Yeah, it's part of the problem is that all of the major gay characters and queer characters and LGBT characters in the Marvel comics right now are mostly side characters. Or side franchises like Young Avengers. Not a lot of people have read Young Avengers.
Right.
Yeah. It's not I wouldn't say it's across the board, but especially in the movies where all the characters get together, like Civil War of Age of Ultron. I think that might help avoid the kind of, like, sanitized feeling it sort of has, where they're like, well, they might think, oh, it'd be distracting if you suddenly referred to a character as they or something, when it really wouldn't be distracting. Yeah. Like, that kind of rounding off, like, with the Maximovs, kind of just... It's not as difficult or distracting, or you're not going... I don't think you're going to incense as many viewers as you think you will if you suddenly have...
A lot of people talk about
characters.
like the international audience not showing things in certain countries because of certain... Like, what's a fucking... Everybody always talks about, like, oh, if Marvel put, like, a gay kiss in a movie, then China wouldn't air it, and they'd lose a lot of money. And I'm like, it's Disney. It's Disney.
It's Disney.
It's just Disney.
It's Disney.
Let's not beat around the bush here. It's Disney doesn't want to make their characters gay.
Except for those exclusive moments.
Except for those exclusive moments.
moments.
So we're never gonna get a Cap and Bucky kiss in canon.
But can you imagine?
I
don't even, like, you know, I don't even go here, but...
Poe and Finn, and
Disney's never gonna do it, because there's this weird thing that happens where they're thinking the same thing that the parents are thinking, and the parents are thinking, how am I going to explain this to my children? As an older cousin, as the oldest sibling and the oldest cousin in my family, I just said, hey kids, to all of my younger cousins who are now my age down through infancy, so 24 through infancy, I said, hey, I've had a boyfriend, I've had a girlfriend, I don't have a gender. And they all said, cool, because they're little kids and they don't have biases formed yet. Kids are not going to ask their parents about gay sex just because they saw two boys kissing. Yeah. Kids don't ask their parents about straight sex when they see the princess kiss the prince at the end of the movie. Why on earth would you think it would be any other way? That's straight people over-sexualizing queerness.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
For example, when I came out as trans... That was a thing that went over much better with the younger parts of my family than the older parts of my family because, you know, they're chiller about it. They haven't had 50-odd years to ingrain their biases in. They're just like, oh, okay, Nat used to be this, and now they're something else, and that's just how that is. Kids are much chiller about it. It's like, oh, okay, this is how things are. When you're a little kid, you can much more easily understand... Because, like, you watch fucking Cinderella and she transforms from a pauper into a princess. Why would it make any less sense that someone could transform from a boy into a girl or otherwise? I just want to clarify real quick off of thing that I said, like, spouting out my ass. It's not that someone used to be a boy and is now a girl or whatever. It's people used to see them as one way and now they're who they really are. I was sort of talking fast and wasn't thinking as well as I should have been. Anyways.
Yeah.
It's stupid to assume that kids are going to automatically sexualize things. Kids don't even know what sex is. So the Disney fear of parents coming in and saying the Disney fear of losing money because parents don't want to try to explain queerness to their kids is the parent problem. It's a problem of that parental generation over-sexualizing queerness, completely oblivious to the fact that we're pasting naked women all over billboards to sell things to men. Sorry, I got kind of mad there.
Oh no, that's totally fine. I mean, I feel a lot of those thoughts as well. I forget what I was about to say. Is there any way to like do we have like a cynical view on like where they go forward, like Disney Marvel? Because it's like I'm not expecting Avengers 4 to have like, you know, it's gonna be Chris Evans' last movie as Captain America, so I'm not gonna expect, even with Feige's code of like, oh, characters you know or you already know will like be confirmed gay.
If it's anybody, I'm sure Cap is the most likely, quite frankly, to be bi.
Yeah.
There's no way Cap's not bi. I mean, if anybody is going to be queer in the MCU, Captain America is my most likely bet.
Right.
Cap and Bucky, or I don't actually even know.
Yeah, it's I don't know because they keep like J.J. Abrams keeps saying, oh yeah, there's going to be a gay character in Star Wars eventually. So
or Captain Marvel could be.
Yeah,
I don't see why she wouldn't be.
Yeah, like those are like opportune moments. Yeah. Like it's easier. It's more easy than it is hard to do this. Like
But I also don't see them doing well with it, because apparently I've heard rumors that they were also trying to put like a background lesbian relationship into Black Panther, and they cut that too.
Oh sure, yeah, like with the Dora Milaje,
and they cut that too in the same way that they cut Valkyrie's scene with her girl.
Yeah. So
I can see them making some of the Guardians gay. You can see them making Nebula gay. I'm not sure I like that necessarily, because I've seen fan works do it so well that I'd be afraid they would do it badly.
Right, okay, yeah.
But also because that then brings in a bad stereotype of the only lesbian in the main screen Marvel Cinematic Universe movies is the one that's a robot who got tortured for her whole life.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. See, these are things that I've seen explored in such nuanced ways in fan works and derivative works that I am so desperately afraid to see what a cis straight white man would do to it on the big screen.
Right. Yeah, they should. I mean, Marvel at least has like Ryan Coogler and like Taika Waititi, and
both of them are doing great.
You know, Fleck and Bowden are doing Captain Marvel, and but like on the Star Wars site, they've all been white dudes, every single one. So it's I don't know.
Different white dudes who are all conflicting with each other's opinions.
Yeah. No, that'll be for AP Star Wars at some point. But
like fucking ping pong balling back and forth. Tennis match from hell. Meanwhile, Mark Hamill's out there like, if Luke's trans to you, he's trans. If Luke's gay to you, he's gay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark Hamill. I love you.
That's Kathleen Kennedy. Make better hiring decisions. And stop, like, they keep teasing, there'll be a gay Star Wars character. And, like, the same way Feige's teasing, and it's like, I
don't have hope.
Yeah, I feel like Laura, do you share the same cynical sentiment that we are right now, or?
I don't know. I have hope for X-Men.
In kind of a more, like, I guess, self-centered view of it is, I don't really feel like anything I see on the screen is going to, feel like personally revolutionary. I'll probably be happy that it's there, but I'll probably just keep enjoying seeing like fan art and like fanfic on Twitter and Ed3 and stuff. So I still feel
Thor
like
Bruce.
I feel like I'm just gonna keep enjoying Thor Bruce.
Yeah. And that's a whole other episode unto itself.
What, Thor Bruce?
I mean, just like fandom in general, and like pairings and shipping, the whole concept of shipping, which is something that alienates, like, something that I don't know about, so I need you to educate me on that. Fuck, I don't want to talk about Bryan Singer, but
who the fuck's Bryan Singer?
Bryan Singer directed X-Men 1, X2, Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, but he's also like probably a pedophile.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's awful. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was supposed to be directing. He was directing Bohemian Rhapsody, and he got fired midway through production because, first of all, like, you know, Me Too is happening, so like that motherfucker was probably lowering up. Number two, he was also like disappearing from the set in the series. He was like not showing up to work.
Interesting.
So.
Sounds like another one from a Kickstarter. I'm starting a Kickstarter to build a gigantic trebuchet to launch awful men into space.
Yeah, and the crazy part is like, so like he is like Bryan Singer's a gay man, so he, when you watch X2 and there's a scene where Bobby Drake is like is coming out to his family as a mutant, and like the mother's like, have you ever tried not being a mutant? And,
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, like all of that, and like Charles and Eric feel really real.
Yeah, and that's how Singer got Ian McKellen, like Sir Ian McKellen, to be a part of that movie because like, you know, the comics were like a civil rights.
Yeah, I was. Ian McKellen was at the rally 3 years ago on Pride Week here in New York City when marriage equality happened. That was one of the wildest experiences I've ever had because I got to Snapchat a photo of him to all my friends that said Magneto is legal. Yeah.
So like that's like the X-Men will be like an appropriate, like, because of the the history.
Of X-Men. The context of the X-Men being about being marginalized.
Yeah, just
on a number of fronts.
Just don't get a pedophile director who's going to take advantage of his power on aspiring young actors.
Yikes,
and just
whoever's directing Deadpool, bring them in. Who's directing Deadpool? I don't even know.
The dude who made 2 made Atomic Blonde.
Oh, good. Oh, I need to watch that still. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
No wonder it got gayer. Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah. He did the first. He co-directed the first John Wick.
Gotcha.
And he's directing the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham Fast and Furious spinoff.
Amazing.
So like,
that's fun.
Yeah, I think he used to be a stuntman. He actually did second.
That explains so
much. He used to be he was actually a second unit director for Civil War. So like he and his John Wick 1 co-director, they did like some B footage for Civil War.
Gotcha.
So I think some of the cooler action shots, I would guess, is from those 2 dudes.
There was some very cool action sequences.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say.
Yeah, the Russos do pretty good action, especially Winter Soldier. I can talk about Winter Soldier all day, but yeah.
Go on, my heart.
Yeah. So any final thoughts? I think we should wrap this up in the next few minutes.
Yeah. Final thoughts.
Yeah.
Dean Noru is pretty good.
Yeah,
good.
I like him.
I'll see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to see them take a pre-existing character and say, yeah, no, fuck you, this character is gay or bi or something like that. Bi would make more sense at this point than gay, considering they've tried to forcibly pair up almost every single protagonist.
Yeah.
But also, it'd be cool to introduce new characters to the movies, make a new movie, and then make a comic based on the movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
They already have 6 quadrillion characters. Maybe they don't.
But after the
Don't fuck
next
up Young Avengers.
Avengers movie, it'll be kind of like a clean slate in some ways, right? We'll kind of.
I actually really do
more
anticipate Young Avengers happening, and I'm afraid.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm
the more I think
afraid
about it,
because Young Avengers happened when there was like a natural break and breaking up of the Avengers in the comics, and they are all sort of tried to pretend to be Avengers.
Yeah.
So I could be down with a Young Avengers happening so long as they did it right.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Unless they make it like Titans.
It'll be hard to do it right, considering how bad they fucked up Hawkeye's character.
Oh yeah. Ooh, episode 2 of AP Marvel. Does Hawkeye need fixing?
Yes.
And we concluded yes.
Yeah, Hawkeye hasn't actually been in the MCU, you guys. I hope you understand that. There is no such thing as Hawkeye in the MCU, who is like a cool schmoozy spy guy with a wife and kid. Hawkeye has had 4 divorces in the comics.
He should live in an apartment, not a farm.
Clint Barton drinks coffee out of the pot, is covered in bandages, and steals a dog from the Russian mafia. Clint Barton has 3 ex-wives who could murder him. Clint Barton is terrible at relationships. He is the least stable Avenger.
They should get the John Wick dudes to make a Hawkeye movie.
They should get the Constantine dudes to make Hawkeye. Hawkeye and Constantine
Keanu
get
Reeves
along.
is. Anyway, I think that'll just about wrap it up. Do either of you have anything to... We already plugged your social media, so anything else that you want to promote? Anything you want to plug? Any projects? Any...
Vote.
Yeah, vote.
Yeah, you should go vote.
Please vote.
Yeah. I
Please
think this will
vote.
be
They're
going
trying to
out
make me
before...
illegal.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah. Yeah, even though the world is shit right now, I think having conversations like this... I think putting things to light and putting things out there is going to help hopefully alleviate some of these external fears that we've all been having lately. I know I have, even though I usually don't have this kind of external existential dread.
No,
but,
I've been having it.
Yeah, climate change and all and whatnot.
Yeah, we're accelerating the inevitable heat death of the universe every day, so listen and love each other. You don't know everything that there is to know. Nobody is an objective point of view. And we should appreciate that. The world is so much bigger than we all understand inside our own heads, and if we never talk to anybody who's different from us, we'll never get a fuller understanding of that.
Yeah.
Can I end it with a Shakespeare quote?
If you want to, yeah.
There is more in heaven and earth, Horatio, than is dreamt of in your philosophy.
There you go. Laura, do you have a Shakespeare quote?
Do I have a Shakespeare quote? I don't, but I have a
quotes.
zine.
Okay.
I have a zine called Sapphic Zines. If you go to sapphiczines.tumblr.com, we're currently in the process of creating work for this zine. We have 40 artists and writers and merchandise designers, and pre-orders will open in December, I think. So if you
There's some really cool
gaze in
people working on
space, it should be good. A nice project.
And then, like usual, I'll plug our, Marvel News Desk. We're on Twitter. We have a YouTube channel, a Patreon. Steve Malder made the awesome jazz track that we use as the theme. Charles Villanueva did the logo. Besides that, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. The internet sucks, so try to limit your time on that.
Make yourself a nice cup of tea, take a shower, pile yourself in blankets.
Yeah. Subscribe to AP Marvel on iTunes and all your other podcast providers. I said all of this in the wrong order, but
It's fine.
yeah. Yeah, and of course, with freaking bomb threats in New York City, obviously hitting us close to home, and then of course what happened in Pittsburgh yesterday.
Yeah.
So obviously best wishes to everyone
Stay
affected. Izzy and Anthony are there right now, so just at them something nice. We can all use a little lifting of the spirits, I think. I think that'll be it. We've hit an hour and a half. So Nat, Laura, thank you both so much for coming on here.
Thank
you.
Yeah, Brittany and Raquel were also part of this episode, so thanks to them as well.
The whole party up in here.
Yeah, no, I kind of like this kind of loose.
There's almost enough of us
Underground-ish.
to make our own Avengers.
Oh my god. Well, guys, we gotta go then. We're busy.
Dibs on Iron Man.
Oh yeah. All right, goodbye everyone.